have nothing to report.
Okay. And then our treasurer.
There's not much to report, but our balance is $1,845.65.
Our community service ladies are gone today, but there is on Moodle. Is it on here? I froze it. Oh. If you go to the Moodle on TEIC, there should be a document with things you can do for community service. Fundraising, we have our fundraising ladies are absent as well. One of the ideas that we do have for fundraising is in the month of November for the basketball games, the home games, we were thinking about doing a bake sale. So if you bake a certain amount, you would get your fundraising points for the semester. So we'll probably email you about that since the ladies are gone tonight. And then our historians.
Yes. We have a scrapbook here tonight if you guys want to look at it and pass it around while we're meeting. Ashley and I haven't really been able to or set a scheduled scrapbooking party shindig, but if any of you are highly interested, you can contact us, and we always would appreciate help. And yes, next semester, Ashley and I are both student teaching, so if we're still going to be making the scrapbook and everything like that, but if any of you are interested in being historians maybe next year, next semester would be a good time to kind of start feeding in and helping Ashley and I out during that transition time. So if you're interested in that, also let us know. We can talk to you guys after the meeting if that's something you're interested in.
Alright. And we're so lucky to have Kassie here. She is a former MNU student, and she's going to talk to us about the Common Core.
Alright, as she said, my name is Kassie. I graduated from Mid-America in December of 2010, so not too long ago. I am in my second year of teaching, and I'm at Honor Springs, Bonner Springs District at Delaware Ridge Elementary, which has only been open for about 6 years, so I'm in a very new building, which I'm very fortunate to be in that building. So we've been learning a little bit about Common Core, and I know you guys have been learning about it here as well. So, I hope you are ready to be challenged, because it's not going to be just you sitting there and listening. So, the first thing I have for you is I need you to put on your student hat so that you can feel like because. You want to help me pass that? We have two different things that I'd like you to work on. Just one, sorry. I have two different ones. Raise your hand if you're upper elementary or secondary. Oh gosh, they get yours at home. And if you're lower elementary, you get that one. Hopefully we got that. Upper? Lower? I made this difficult. So on the front side, I want you to look at the math side where it says open response. And I want you to start thinking about that and see if you can solve that problem on the open response side. Okay. So while you're working on this, I want you to try and solve it, and tell me what you noticed about this math problem. This is the last word, so let's do that over. So try to solve it for a few minutes, and then be thinking about what you noticed about this. Alright, share your last little thoughts. And then be thinking about, what do you wonder? Do you have any questions about this? Is there anything you're unclear about? Any wonders about this? Share those with me. Would anyone want to share out loud what they noticed or wondered about their problem? Come on. I like what you said up here. Will you share what you said?
It's not a consistent pattern. So it goes 5 from 5 to 10, but it's 4 to 19, and so you couldn't count over 5 every time to get the first number.
And she had the second grade one, the lower elementary. Do you want to share what you said? I like what you said as well.
I have a 5th grade math, and I said they're multi-step problems, so the student can't just look at it and look at the numbers and decide how they need to solve it. They actually have to read through the directions and find out what applications they need to use.
So multi-step problems. Second grade one, did you notice that as well? Is there any multi-steps in yours? Or multi-processes you had to go through to figure out the answer? Flip it over and look at the other side real quick. You don't have to do this one, but just look at it, and what do you notice and wonder about this one? All right, take a minute and talk to the person next to you about this one. What do you notice about this one on the other side? All right, would anyone want to share out loud what they noticed about this one? Anyone? All right, we'll go on. Okay, so Common Core, what do you know already? I want to know what you already know so I don't tell you stuff you already know. So I know a little bit, you've been learning about it in your classes. Anyone want to share out loud what you know about Common Core? You guys are really shy today.
That's good. Everybody pretty much understands.
Okay, everything you do in the classroom.
We know it's taking the place of No Child Left Behind in 2014.
Okay.
Not integrating all subjects, so you can't not teach reading and
Integrating all subjects. Yes.
Not every state has adopted it.
Correct.
Nebraska.
You are correct. Anything else?
And Alaska.
Alright. So I'm going to go over just some basic differences that we've been talking about in our professional development. Is that the standards are much more broad. If you looked at the Kansas standards, there's like a standard for every single tiny little thing. But with Common Core, they're very broad and they're kind of open to interpretation. So I went to a conference this summer where we were unpacking the standards, which if you think about it, if every state unpacks them differently, then the states are going to be teaching them differently anyways. So they wanted Common Core to be for the whole nation, but then each state has to go in and say, now what does this mean for us? So it's a little bit different, and there's much more real world application with the Common Core standards. It's not just, well, it's 2 times 2. It's now how do you apply it? How is that in your real life? Critical thinking skills are needed. Kids can't just answer the question and be done with it. It's not multiple choice. They have to be able to think deeper, go into those higher levels on taxonomy. There's a new term of complex text with the ELA standards. So then we have to figure out, now what does that mean? What does complex text mean? And how do we integrate that into our teaching? There's a lot of proving your point with evidence. So that kind of goes back to the critical thinking. If you ask a question, then you have to follow it up. Well, how do you know that? Because some kids will be like, well, I just know in my head. Well, no, you don't just know the answer. How do you know it? Explain your process that you went through to get to that answer. And then, similar to what I just said, the assessments are going to be a lot deeper than just 2 times 2 or multiple choice. So this is some of the differences that we have talked about. And And this is kind of a visual of the Common Core standard of ask and answer questions such as who, what, where, why, when, and how. And then all of the Kansas standards that fit underneath that one Common Core standard. So that just kind of shows you how broad Common Core is, because before in Kansas standards there were 4 standards that are now all combined into that one Common Core standard. So here's just a brief little overview of how the standards are organized for reading. It's called English Language Arts, or ELA. I'm sure you guys know that. The strands are literature, informational text, foundational skills, writing, speaking, listening, and language. Those are all the different strands of ELA. And then mathematics, the strands are operations and algebraic thinking, number and operations in base 10, measurement and data, and geometry. And I think there might be more when you get higher. I only teach 2nd grade, so these are the ones that are in 2nd grade. I think they add 1 in 3rd grade. And the science ones, the drafts that I released the drafts in May, and I tried to click on it, and they said, sorry, you can't look at the drafts anymore. Now they're being revised. So I tried to look at them, but can't look at them anymore. So hopefully science will be out soon. Okay, so this is just an overview of the number of standards, and I did 2nd grade because those are the ones that I have. There's only 10 literature standards, 10 informational text standards, 2 standards in foundational skills. It starts with 4, and that gets to be less and less as the students get older. There's 8 writing, 6 speaking and listening, and 6 language. So if you've ever had any exposure with Kansas standards, it's pages upon pages upon pages of standards, but Common Core, very condensed into much broader or more broad standards. And then the math breakdown, there's 4 in operations and algebraic thinking, 9 in number and operations in base 10, 10 standards in measurement and data, and 3 in geometry. So not a whole lot. And just a side note, that money is not introduced in Common Core until 2nd grade. So I hope that teachers don't go by that, because if my kids don't come to me until 2nd grade, they don't know their coins, I'm going to cry. Because that's a big concept. Because in 2nd grade, they have to be able to solve word problems with money. And if they've never had money before, it's going to be a big problem. So, I would. Okay, so the district I'm in right now is USC 204, and K through 2 right now teaches Common Core only. So we've completely switched over. However, 3rd through 5th grade teaches both Common Core and Kansas standards, because this year they're going to be assessed on the Kansas standards as long as the waiver doesn't get passed. So, and then next year will be the Common Core assessment. So we are teaching only Common Core, and I loop with my kids, so I'll have them in 3rd grade next year when we have to be tested on the Common Core. So that should be fun. What we've been doing to get ready for those Common Core assessments is that we take the MAP assessment, which is from NWEA, and it is a computerized test that the kids take from from 1st grade in the spring semester up until 5th grade. And so we've been piloting the Common Core edition of it, which is a lot more hands-on on the computer, like they have to drag things, and they can use different, like they'll have a problem about birds, and 9 flew away. Well, you can use these birds and drag them up here, and you can manipulate them to help you solve the problem. So it's a lot more hands-on, the kids like it. However, when we did the reading one this year, my kids had to read a passage that was about this long on the computer. They had to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. And that test also gets harder as you do well. So if you get a couple questions right, it'll get harder. So I had some 2nd graders that were in long division, and they're like, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, I'm sorry, just try your best. So it's going to be a lot more rigorous, I believe, the Common Core assessment is, but it's going to be a lot more interactive for the kids. So how has this affected my teaching? Well, I only taught 1 year without Common Core. So this is my 1st year teaching in Common Core. So some things that I've learned from the ELA, one of the biggest implications that I've learned is questioning. We've done a lot of professional development on developing questions and asking planned questions. Our principal wants us to write questions in our lessons that are higher level thinking and like kind of anticipating where the kids are going to struggle and making sure we have a question for that struggle. We analyzed all these different lesson plans. I think we looked at an 18-page lesson plan. And it had all these different questions. If the kid does this, then I'm going to ask this question. And I'm like, I hope you don't expect us to do that every day. That would be a lot of work. So I'm working on that. And then also coaching my students in formulating their own divergent questions. So we went through all these lessons. There was this big discovery lesson about questioning and had the kids figure out what's the difference between a skinny question and a fat question. And then changing those verbiage to convergent and divergent questions. And just really pushing the kids to think about questions that are not able to be answered like this. Like, what is that? Well, that's a table. Now, why is this table here? That requires a little bit more thinking. So we want them to be asking those questions as well, so that they're pushing their own learning. And then again, what we talked about with pushing students to always think about their evidence and how they know the answer. This year I'm very fortunate with a very high group of kids, but then they think that they know everything, and everything's easy. So getting them to struggle is the hard part. So I have some student examples. We were studying hurricanes for our expedition, and we had a hurricane expert come in, Brett Anthony, and he would put us on the news, and they were all so excited, but we had to draft some questions for him. And actually some of our questions stumped him. He didn't know how to answer them. That's how deep of questions that my students came up with, or our students came up with. So just some questions. Justify how you can stay safe and survive a hurricane, rather than what is a hurricane. Or imagine if you were stuck in the middle of a hurricane, how would you feel? Can you tell the difference from a tornado and a hurricane? Why do we have hurricanes, and why are there special names for hurricanes? So it's getting the kids to think deeper rather than, what's a hurricane? How many hurricanes happened? What's the name of this hurricane? Those are questions you can answer with one word. So these are some that they came up with after we did those lessons. Another thing for ELA is the complex text. And when we were first introduced to this, our principal said you need to have your kids struggle. You need to allow them to see that it's okay to struggle. And that you need to have complex text for the whole class. That's going to make your high kids struggle and your low kids. So it's finding that text and mixing it in with your regular text, not making them struggle and break down and cry every day about how frustrated they are with the complex text. But it is in the Common Core standards, so finding that balance of complex text and grade level text. And we are fortunate to have a program which allows us to print off articles, and they are all at different levels. So this is part of one. And this is a 4th grade level. So I gave my kids a 4th grade level, and some of my highest readers were able to read all of it, and they didn't struggle at all. So now I have to go higher than that to get a complex text for them to struggle with. Alright, I have another handout for you. This one you don't have to do anything, I promise. Alright, so just take a look at that. And I want you to look at and see if you can find where does the increase in complexity happen. So on one side it shows you the current range of complexity. And then you can see the gap there between 12th grade and the first year of college. And then see if you can see where Common Core has extended it. Where does it first start getting more complex? Don't tell people the answers. No. Alright, does anyone find it? Where does the increase in complexity happen? Second grade. So K and 1 will stay the same with complex text, but in 2nd grade it starts to expand into a little bit more complex. But then if you have kids that aren't at 2nd grade, then you have to push them up higher or lower. But it still has to be complex for them. Alright, so math, the biggest implication that we've been pushing for is problem solving. Uh-oh. Yeah.
Wait, stop.
Okay.
Before you go into math,
Okay, go back.
Can you, now you've got this program that Bonner bought to help you find those complex text situations for
correct.
your students.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what if you don't have those? How do you determine that, and what all goes into determining it? Is it fluency, comprehension, and is it all of those things?
Of complex text, determining what's complex?
Yeah, to make it.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I know the answer to. Because when I heard complex text and they told me I'm going to have to give the same text to all my students and that has to be a struggle for my high kids, well, that's going to be like 5th grade for my high kids when I have kids that are reading 1st grade level. They're going to not be able to read a word of it. So, I'm not exactly sure what the definition would be of complex text because I just know that I go in that program and I go higher than my kids
And what
are
they
in
could
it.
just sound out and read, or what they can understand.
I know there's I think it might be understanding. By the end of the year, read and comprehend informational texts, including history, social studies, science, and technical texts in grades 2 to 3, complexity band proficiently. So I'm guessing that, and it says with scaffolding as needed at the high end of the range. So pushing them all the way up to the next grade level, I guess is what it's saying, and reading and comprehending.
Oral reading and comprehension.
Yeah, and that program is great because we're an expeditionary learning school, which means we do integrate everything, which is great for us already because that's already what we're doing. So all those articles are nonfiction, and we can find them to go along with our expedition. So like we're getting ready to, we just started needs and wants, and we're going to do a swap meet where the kids bring in clothes and then they can swap it for something else. And so we found this article, it talks just about it. It's about the clothing trade. So then using this article to teach our social studies standards, but also work on a reading comprehension skill with that. So, should I share with the whole group? Alright, so on to math. We have a math coach that comes to our school one time a week. She's for the whole district, and she's been helping us to figure out what Common Core math is going to look like. So she's been pushing us to do problem solving, including those problem solving skills into our teaching. And again, with the text, you want them to struggle, allowing them to struggle with the tough problem. One of my highest readers, and she's above average in like everything, was in tears last week over our problem solving example that we were doing, because she didn't know what to do. And so just allowing them to get that struggle and realize that it's okay to struggle. Because if they're not struggling, they're just going to breeze through school, and then they're going to get to something in college where they struggle, and they're going to be out of luck. So, even those high kids, we want them to be able to struggle. And then also showing all their evidence for their answers. When we started doing these problem-solving journals, we gave them a rubric, and it had like 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star. And we went through what criteria it looks like to have a 4-star problem-solving journal. And here's an example of one. So as you can see, there's a tiny little problem, 2 math problems, and a lot of explaining. So, she did a little bit more math than she had to, because the problem was Joe has 19 toy cars, Sam has 30 toy cars, who has more and how many more? And explain the strategy you used to solve the problem. So she told me the answer, which that's an expectation you answer the problem correctly, and write it in a sentence. I think that Sam has more toy cars. I think Sam has 11 more toy cars than Joe. So she told me who has more and how many more. And then this is all her explanation. She says, I added 19 and 30 because I needed to figure out how many cars there were in total. And it's an expectation that they use math vocabulary words in their explanation. It's not sure why she added them, but to her it made sense. So, okay. So she got that done, and then she kept going. I subtracted 19 from 30 because I needed to figure out how many more toy cars Satan had than Joe. The information that told me I needed to subtract was how many more. I did that because I know that how many more is compare subtract, and I know that means that means I have to subtract. Yes.
Was this your student?
Yes.
Second grade?
Yes. Yes. And this was a lot simpler problem, at least I thought, than the one we did the week before, which was a multi-step problem. Because we do word problems every day with the maps. I don't know if any of you have been introduced to maps. Math Gardner uses it, I know. And they do problem solving, and we go over it every day, that how many more means we compare, subtract, and we do it all the time. And I still had kids that were, I don't know what to do. So I thought it would be easy, but for some it wasn't. So that's just an example of the work that is expected with Common Core. A lot of work. A lot of writing, explaining your thinking and writing. Alright, so then the other implication is multiple solutions and having the students represent problems in multiple ways and explaining each strategy that they use, recognizing that there's not just one way to do a math problem. There's many ways to get the right answer. And then discussing their strategies with other students is another expectation with Common Core. Okay, I know that you did the problem and you did it multiple ways, now can you talk about it? A lot of Common Core is explaining your thinking through writing and talking, communicating that to their other peers. And then this next slide talks about the standards for mathematical practices, or the SMPs. And this is just the varieties of expertise that students should seek to develop with their math skills. Similar to some of the NCTM, what is it called?
Standards?
NCTM.
Oh, the National Math
Yeah.
Standards. Okay.
Those standards. So the first one is to make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. So that goes along with our problem solving journals. They have to persevere and keep going even though it's hard. Reason abstractly and quantitatively. Construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. So they have to be able to argue for their problem and also critique what other people say. Model with mathematics. Use appropriate tools strategically. So if you're going to measure the football field, are you going to pick up a ruler? What are you going to pick up to measure that? Attending to precision, making sure that they're not making any mistakes, being very precise in their math. Because if they do multi-step problems and they make a mistake at the beginning, they're kind of out of luck for the rest of the problem. Look for and make use of structure, and look for and I think that's supposed to be and express regularly and repeated reasoning. So we have a math curriculum. We use Everyday Math, and we got the Common Core edition last year. And so it will tell you which Common Core standard goes with each lesson. And then we got these awesome little flip books that go through each standard. And for each standard, it tells you some of the suggested mathematical practices that they might do. For example, this says fluently add and subtract within 100 using strategies based on place value, properties of operations, yada yada yada. And it says one of the mathematical practices they should be practicing is number 7, look for and make use of structure. So this is very helpful. So I try to include those in my lesson plans and make sure that I am teaching those along with the other standards.
Kassie, did you say did that come with that curriculum you guys bought, or is it
No.
different?
These are, I looked it up, these are $15 and they are amazing. Our district bought them for everyone, and they go through, I was going to show you the difference. This is the binder that our principal gave us this year, with everything math, Common Core, resources. This is what I use every day. This is what's available, this is what's helpful.
And where did those come from? What company?
These are from McGraw-Hill. Yeah. They have them for ELA and for math.
They have both.
Yes. Alright, so flip it over to the other side. Now she's thinking about how could you problem or defend it. Good. Any other ideas how you would use this in a classroom? Does anyone know what part of Common Core this would help you with? Well, what part of math, Common Core, would it help you with? Makes them show their evidence, which is very key in Common Core. Anything else?
The multiple methods of solving a problem.
Yes, multiple methods of solving a problem. Reasoning of others. Oh, we're on track here.
Evidence explaining.
Evidence explaining. You're close. Are you cheating?
Yeah.
So what are you looking at there?
SNPs.
The SMPs. So these are helping you and your kids to use those different SMPs. So if we go back, we have put the problem in your own words. Which one would that be? Let's do an easier one. Solve the problem in two ways while labeling your work. Model with mathematics. Use manipulatives to solve the problem. Using appropriate tools. Critique the reasoning of others. Number 3, which says critique the reasoning of others. So this is just a way for you to get your kids to be thinking deeper about their math problems. So maybe you could have it at like a math station. We have a fearsome fact every week, which is one of the problems that's really hard for kids to solve, like maybe the sevens in multiplication or addition. So maybe they go to the math station and they roll this cube and they do something with that, or maybe they do it with their problem solver for the week. So just using it in different ways. Okay, so some resources. Seriously, the best resource I've found is Pinterest. Second to this one. There are so many ideas. If you are a teacher and you're not on Pinterest, there's something wrong with you. Just kidding. But there are so many resources and so many Common Core resources there. So check it out if you haven't. This one is North Carolina, I believe, and they have deconstructed the standards. So right here, they have Unpacking Standards. You can click on math and you can get all of the different standards. So if I look at 2nd grade, I should pull up a PDF. And they have already deconstructed it and told us what it means. And given you sample. So here's the first operations and algebraic thinking. It gives you what does the standard be to a child, and then it gives you different examples of students and how they would show their thinking. And here is a problem for you to use with your students. So again, it's a word problem, and then it says use drawings and equations to show your thinking, so showing your thinking. So this is a great website, has lots of resources on it. Also has graphic organizers, text exemplar documents, just a whole bunch of things on there. That was North Carolina. This was North Carolina. That's what I told you. And then this one. Green.org. have all these different resources. They have Kentucky resources on there too, just compiled a bunch of resources for you.
Where could you put these resources?
Your portfolio. Where?
The portfolios they're building.
Oh, I was like, oh, I don't know.
They know.
Oh, sorry.
Can we put your PowerPoint in Moodle form?
Yeah, and I can add some. I was just looking through this giant binder I have, and I have one, two, three, 4.5 pages worth of math resources, and the websites that go along with them, the grade level that it attends to. So I can put some more resources on there too.
Cassie, when you talk about creating your lesson plans, is your district having to identify the common core pieces in your lesson plan?
Yep. And then K through 2 is only Common Core, and then 3 through 5 they have to write both Kansas and Common Core on their lesson plans.
So what does your lesson plan look like?
Well, we have a template for our district that has you write learning targets top, and then you have your standard vocabulary, hook, instructional, whatever, for the whole week. And so throughout my team we split up, and I do math, and another lady does language arts, and another lady does more of our expedition and our newsletter and all that stuff, so it's not so overwhelming for all of us. And the lessons have already been written for the math lessons that we use with our curriculum, and I did those last year too, so I copy and paste a lot of things. And then my lessons are done, but I changed a lot of things as well. For example, this next week we're doing a budgeting lesson during math time, because budgeting is math, but it's also our social studies teacher that we're working on with our needs and wants. So, any questions? Yes.
Have you noticed that has the time that you planned for your schedule, is it taking longer, or is it about how you planned it this year?
Well, definitely with the problem-solving journals, it's taken a lot more time than I thought it would. We decided to do those on Friday morning because we have assembly every Friday morning. We have a shorter math period, and some mornings we don't even get them done in the hour that we have because it just takes a lot, and the kids and I don't help them because it's all on their own, having them struggle. I'll give them guiding questions, but I won't help them per se. So it takes a long time for those. But besides that, just the regular normal lessons with Common Core standards, they don't take any longer. Yes?
How have your kids responded to just the rigor that the standards are bringing?
So far, besides a few criers, they've done okay, and they've loved it actually. The problem-solving journals, they're excited to do them, and especially with those Common Core, the math test at least, they liked that a lot better. I would ask them, now which test did you like better? And when we came to reading, they were like, we didn't like that one, the passages were way too long, but that's the reality, so. But yeah, for the most part, they enjoy it, and at my school, they've done a really good job already of holding kids accountable for their evidence and pushing them for rigor. We set goals every quarter, and they are responsible for tracking their progress towards their goals and all things like that. So our school's already kind of set them up for success by doing that. So yeah.
What about parents? What has their reaction been when their second grader comes home with 5th grade reading?
I haven't had any phone calls yet, and no reactions. We haven't really completely told them about Common Core. I mentioned it a few times at conferences because the grade card has Common Core standards on there. But yeah, they haven't said much about it yet. So we've only done a few lessons with complex text so far, and that complex text actually didn't go home and went in their portfolio. But they saw it during that time, and they were impressed that their kid was reading that and comprehending it.
I was wondering if there would be some parent training coming down the pike maybe soon, but what about your grade cards? Do you still do a letter, or do you just say met the standard?
We do EE exceeds the expectation, ME for meets expectation, AE
right there on the standard on the grade card.
And it only has those, and then it gives you like a little key of what it means. So some parents are like, what does this mean? But it tells you at the bottom. Last year, I think it used to give you a percentage too, but this year it's just strictly the letters, so. Yeah. Alright, you guys ready for a quiz? I have prizes. Alright, so what is the difference in, does anyone know what CCSS stands for? Oh, yay! What is one difference from the Common Core standards to Kansas standards? Alright, I saw your hand first.
They're more broad.
More broad, yay! Alright, come on up and pick a prize. Alright, so the standards are much more broad than the Kansas standards. How many SMPs are there? Emily? Oh, your hand first.
Ocho.
Ocho. In English, please?
8.
8 is correct. Come on up and pick a prize. What is the name of one strand of ELA?